It's a random Thursday in August 2017 at the Las Vegas airport. As people rush here and there under stress, 21-year-old Marcus Hutchins sits in the airport lounge feeling on top of the world. His week-long visit to Defcon, one of the most popular cybersecurity conventions in the world, ended in a wild night of partying and depravity. But not before he was celebrated for stopping the worst cyber attack in internet history. After unwinding in the US, it was time for the hero to head back to England, recoup his energy, and return to his job as a cybersecurity engineer. He had for sure deserved this break. To kill time, Marcus takes his phone out of his pocket. After a few minutes of humble bragging on Twitter, he notices that a red-headed man, flanked by 2 customs agents, is staring at him. "Are you Marcus Hutchins?" the man asks. Confused, Marcus nods. "Come with me," the man says. Even more confused, Marcus obeys. What is going on? He wonders. Slowly, he is taken downstairs to an underground holding cell. There, before he can utter a word of protest, he is slapped in handcuffs and left with no explanation. Alone, his head and his heart start to go haywire, thinking hard about what he could have possibly done wrong. This is the story of the rise and fall of Marcus Hutchins, the hero of the hacking community with an incredibly dark past. Years before the FBI bust, Marcus Hutchins arrived on the cybersecurity scene seemingly out of nowhere. He started a blog known as Malwaretech, which is still active today. On it, he made in-depth posts about malware and cybersecurity loopholes. Though the project started out small, it picked up in popularity significantly. Both hackers and cybersecurity engineers eagerly tuned in to learn the methods by which they could exploit or remove vulnerabilities. Pretty soon, Malwaretech gained 10,000 readers a month. Some of those readers were just happy to have the blog as a resource, but most others were curious about the author behind them. Marcus, hiding behind a picture of a cat in glasses, kept his identity secret. This prompted others to wonder if he was indeed a hobbyist, or if he knew way more about malware than he was letting on. One frequent reader of Malwaretech was a man known as Salim Naino. Salim was the CEO of the cybersecurity firm Kryptos Logic. Whenever he would give his 6-figure engineers a difficult assignment, they would report back saying the solution was impossible. Salim would then go online to see that Malwaretech had figured out the solution ages ago. In a bold move, Salim reached out to Malwaretech and commissioned him to create a botnet tracker for his firm. His engineers had been struggling to create one for months. To Malwaretech, this was child's play. After all, he had already built one into Kilios, the largest botnet in the world. Reverse engineering the Kilios code, Malwaretech got past the obfuscation and inserted a tracker into it. This way, anytime Kilios infected a computer, he would know. He presented a version of this program to Salim, for which he was paid $10,000, but Salim did not want their partnership to end there. Salim offered Malwaretech a full-time job. While this interested Malwaretech, he was worried about having to give up his anonymity. To Salim, this was a no-brainer, unless Malwaretech had something to hide. Fearing unnecessary probing into his background, Malwaretech came out of the shadows and accepted the 6-figure job. He was nobody but Marcus Hutchins, a young English hacker who was very interested in malware. Using his inordinate knowledge of dark web software, he would be able to help Kryptos Logic defend clients against cyber attacks. Officially a white hat hacker, Marcus Hutchins defended against 2 large cybersecurity attacks in the world, earning him a huge amount of respect. The first of these was a mega DDoS attack known as Mirai. Typically, DDoS attacks take advantage of malware-infected computers to spam a central server with nonsense requests, thereby making it crash. This creates traffic of a few hundred gigabits a second. Mirai, however, was a whole new beast. It harnessed the power of Internet of Things devices, such as smartwatches, smart fridges, home defense systems, wireless routers, and security cameras. This creates traffic of up to 1 terabit per second. It was a dangerous new form of an old familiar enemy, one that threatened to sink the internet to its knees. Mirai attacked French web hosting company OVN. It also hit the domain name system server provider DYN. This caused Amazon, Reddit, Netflix, and PayPal to crash across parts of North America and Europe. People couldn't access their favorite sites, and they weren't sure why. Mirai also hit the entire country of Liberia, taking it offline. With no signs of stopping, it also began to target Lloyds, the largest bank in the UK. This extortion campaign from Mirai was a step too far. It was finally time for Marcus and Cryptos Logic to step in. Here, Marcus retrofitted his botnet tracker to create a Mirai tracker. With his code tagging along the malware, he drew a network map of the attacks as they spread across the world. From this map, Marcus could easily see that the Mirai attacks on Lloyds were coordinated from a central DDoS for hire service. Digging deeper, he found the username of the hacker who ran the service and messaged him on the Jabber app. Marcus communicated with the hacker, known as Popopret. Rather than using threats, he showed him how his actions were wrong and how they were hurting innocent people. Without much fuss, Popopret shut down Mirai. Marcus understood that the hacker really didn't understand the harm he was causing and merely needed to be illuminated. Some found it weird that Marcus could relate to a black hat, but most others were just grateful that the attack had stopped. Nobody dwelled on the matter too much, though. There were other attacks to worry about. Since Marcus had been working so hard at Cryptos Logic, his boss forced him to take a vacation by tying it into his bonus. He honestly needed a break, so Marcus agreed to go on leave. For each hour of sleep, he earned about $1,000. However, while he slept, the Black Hats were hard at work. After a period of rest and relaxation, Marcus returned to his workstation to discover that the internet was on fire. One of the most nefarious malware attacks in internet history was shutting down key systems all around the world. In the UK, where Marcus lived, the major target was the National Health Service. While doctors and nurses tried to assess vital info to help them treat patients, they were met with a message on their computer reading, "Oops, your files have been encrypted," and demanding $300 in Bitcoin to unlock them. At first, the doctors thought this was just a prank that would soon fade away. But then, it lasted so long that patients started to die. Within a few hours, the virus hit 600 doctors' offices and clinics. It wiped their files clean, preventing them from accessing critical patient records. All around the world, the top national security experts didn't know what to do. This attack, which they named WannaCry due to this file extension, was a raging fire that threatened to destroy the internet as the world knew it. Could something be done? Or was this really it? WannaCry came about when a powerful piece of computer code, known as Eternal Blue, was stolen from the NSA by a group of hackers known as the Shadow Brokers. It had then been leaked online by them for anyone to use for whatever purpose. Reverse engineered by North Korean hackers, this powerful bit of computer engineering allowed anyone to penetrate the defenses of any unpatched computer and run hostile code. It was the ultimate digital master key. Eternal Blue had been developed by the NSA as a very powerful spy tool. Now, though, it was being turned against the very people it was meant to protect. Faster than any epidemic, the WannaCry worm was spreading across the world. It infected German railway firm Deutsche Bahn, Sberbank in Russia, car companies Renault, Nissan, and Honda, many universities in China, many police departments in India, the Spanish telecom giant Telefonica, the courier service FedEx, and airplane company Boeing. In less than 24 hours, it had wiped the computer data of 250,000 computers and inflicted between $4 to $8 billion in damage. For many cybersecurity specialists, this was the internet apocalypse they had always feared. When Marcus returned to work and finally started fighting WannaCry, he sent a tweet saying, "I picked a hell of a fucking week to take off work." After a hacker friend known as Caffeine sent him the WannaCry source code, he set up a simulated computer server for the virus to infect. This was a controlled experiment for Marcus to learn how the virus worked A few moments after running it, he noticed that before the virus encrypted the decoy files, it sent out a query to a very strange web address. Marcus tried visiting the address, but as it turned out, it did not exist. Registering the weird website on the domain registrar known as Namecheap for a little over $10, Marcus became the owner of the website. It was his plan to possibly sinkhole the attack by drawing traffic away from real victims and discovering the pattern of the attacks. Unbeknown to him, this simple action accomplished way more than he thought. While Marcus's strange website was bombarded with attacks, it turned out that new infections across the world had stopped completely. Confused, Marcus realized that he had stumbled upon the WannaCry kill switch almost entirely by accident. The hacker who had created the virus had left the URL as a failsafe. Anytime a new infection queried the site and received a response, it would not proceed with file encryption. At first, Marcus didn't understand the full scope of what he had accomplished, but then, as it dawned on him, he broke into celebrations. Sure, he still had to do a few things, such as make sure the Namecheap servers didn't crash. But by then, the international community stepped in to help him manage the crises. Following numerous news reports about his feat, Marcus became a worldwide hero. In fact, people in his neighborhood started to recognize him and ask for pictures. For Marcus, this was the high point of his career. He had proven that hacking could be a positive force for good in the world. All of a sudden, he was a celebrity hacker. Everyone in the cybersecurity space wanted to hang out with him and pick his brains. But with his new life in the limelight came new questions about his past. And those questions had some very, very uncomfortable answers. Years before Marcus started malware tech, he was a nefarious black hat hacker, one that created some of the worst malware in dark web history. When Marcus was blamed at school for an amateurish hack likely performed by another student, he decided he had had it with that place. As such, he became a full-time computer fiend. Writing basic computer programs was no longer appealing to Marcus. He wanted to do more with his machine. Way more. Marcus started to hang out on a secret MSN forum where he met other talented hackers. People who would code JPEG images to install a virus on a computer whenever the images were clicked. These viruses would then access the victim's contact list and send themselves to everyone on there. Once that was accomplished, the virus would replicate itself, and the process would proceed infinitely. Marcus was so impressed with these programs that he decided to create one to show what he could do. Rather than create a basic virus, though, Marcus decided to make a password stealer. Of course, creating such a program was rather unethical. However, what did that matter to teenage Marcus? He just wanted to impress his internet friends. And so, he made a simple program that exploited the password autofill feature of Internet Explorer. Even though the passwords were encrypted, Marcus figured out how to decode them with an encryption key. After sharing this with his online friends, he essentially became a hero to them. When Marcus was in his mid-teens, the MSN forum was suddenly shut down. Those who had only been casual contributors would have to find something else to do. However, for those like Marcus, who had been serious participators, it was time to graduate to the big leagues. There was another community known as hack forums, a place that was home to serious hackers with much more questionable ethics. If you wanted access to hack forums, you needed to prove you knew what you were about. To do that, you needed to have control of a botnet. A botnet is a collection of malware-infected computers that obey a hacker's commands. It can be used to mine crypto or even perform DDoS attacks. As it turned out, Marcus had a botnet already. He had a collection of over 8,000 computers under his thumb. After gaining access to hack forums, Marcus set up a basic web hosting service called Ghost Hosting. On it, he would allow other members of the forum to host their nefarious websites by bouncing the server activity across his army of bot computers. This was similar to the technique he had used as a child to fool his computer class instructors. On Ghost Hosting, Marcus allowed everything apart from child porn sites. Even websites that hosted Juarez black market software were allowed to operate at a fee. To Marcus, Ghost hosting was something he did to pass the time. But more than he suspected, it functioned as a key part of dark web infrastructure. After a year of running ghost hosting and dealing with petulant hacker clients, Marcus shut the service down. He wanted to do something even more powerful with computers than attend to the needs of bored clients all day. He knew he had only scratched the surface of hacking. Challenging himself to do more, he started creating more and more powerful wares. At age 16, after posting a particularly impressive piece of code on hack forums, Marcus was approached by a hacker known only as Vinny. Vinny was impressed with how well Marcus could reverse engineer anti-malware software. He wanted him as a business partner. He made a proposition to Marcus about creating a complete, multi-featured, well-maintained rootkit that could be sold on darker corners of the hacking sphere, such as exploit.in and Darkode. In return, Marcus would get a percentage of all profits in Liberty Reserve. At first, Marcus was hesitant, but then he realized that Vinny was different than all the other wannabes on hack forums. Besides, this was an opportunity to accomplish two things that Marcus really wanted. First, to work on more meaningful hacking projects, and second, to finally earn some real cash. Marcus then decided to become a software engineer for this project. The nefarious malware would come to be known to the world as Kronos. The moment Marcus began working with Vinny, his life changed significantly. He finally started earning real money, which he used to upgrade his PC and buy himself an Xbox. He explained this to his parents by telling them he was a freelance software developer. Even if they doubted him, there wasn't anything they could do to stop him. While there were perks of working with Vinny, there were also drawbacks. Vinny was a remarkably demanding partner. He worked Marcus like a horse, constantly badgering him for updates. Soon enough, Marcus, who was losing sleep working on the project, was approaching a breaking point. Confiding in Vinny about his feelings, Vinny offered to send Marcus some drugs. Pills that would keep his mind clear and help him perform above average. Marcus was smart enough to fool even the smartest cybersecurity engineers, but he was not smart enough to avoid sending his personal details to a stranger on the net. Sure, Vinny cut his checks, but then Vinny had been extremely careful not to share any of his personal details with Marcus. As for Marcus, he freely gave Vinny his real name and home address. This is a move he would come to regret later. Now possessed with a collection of weed, hallucinogenic mushrooms, and ecstasy, Marcus returned to work on Kronos. But then, almost instantly, Vinny became more demanding. Vinny told Marcus he wanted him to include a web inject on Kronos. This was a piece of malware that would record all of a user's keystrokes and see everything input into text fields. For the first time in his life, Marcus was hesitant to build something. With a feature like this, Kronos users could easily get someone's bank info and empty their accounts of all contents. Marcus didn't want to be the reason someone else had their savings depleted. As such, he drew a hard line and said no. At first, Vinny was surprised by this refusal, but then he came back to Marcus with a counteroffer. He told Marcus that he had hired another engineer to create the web inject and that Marcus would only have to integrate it. Besides, Marcus had already created the project source code, so why would he walk away from it now? As a last resort, Vinny threatened Marcus, telling him if he did not complete the project, he would forward his details to the FBI. This made Marcus understand just how badly he had played himself. With little choice in the matter, Marcus returned to work on the project. He convinced himself that Vinny's points, the non-threatening ones at least, made perfect sense. Indeed, he was already implicated in the project. Why assume all the risk but reap none of the benefits? To deal with the stress of the project, Marcus became more and more dependent on amphetamines. He would code for days and days on end, and then crash for 24-hour stretches of sleep. He had no friends, could not turn to his parents, and could not turn to Vinny. Yet still, he was a lonely teen who craved companionship. This is what led him to meet Randy. Marcus met Randy on a hacker forum known as Trojan Forge. There, Randy had tried to get him to build a piece of banking malware. Marcus refused, but still, Randy kept contact with him. Impressed with his skills, Randy asked him for help with some legit educational apps that he wanted to launch. Even though Marcus was stressed with Kronos, he decided to help Randy out. This was an opportunity to launder some of the money he made with Vinny. Besides, Randy was a very generous patron. He sent Marcus gifts such as an iMac laptop and a PlayStation. Yet again, Marcus was giving his personal information out to a stranger. After all his experiences as a hacker, he still had not lost his trusting heart. Randy and Marcus got exceptionally close. Instead of the one-way relationship Marcus had with Vinny, his relationship with Randy was much more friendly. The two of them played online games together and even video chatted together. In fact, Randy sent Marcus $10,000 to help him invest in Bitcoin. During one of Marcus's amphetamine crashes, he slept through a power outage. This meant that the automated programs he had built to manage the Bitcoin trade all failed. Ashamed that he had let his friend down and lost $5,000 of his money, Marcus offered him a free copy of the Kronos software. This was malware that Vinny had been selling to Russian hackers for $7,000 a pop. As an understanding friend, Randy accepted this consolation gift. This would prove to be Marcus's undoing much later in life. Tired of building illegal software while hooked on methamphetamines, Marcus enrolled in a community college. There, he formed a special connection with one of his computer science professors. Inspired by the fact that he could live a different life than the one he currently had, Marcus began to distance himself from his underground friends. He also forcefully tried to wean himself off of the drugs. In the worst throes of withdrawal, Marcus received hundreds of messages a day from Vinny and Randy. Where the hell was he, and what the hell was he doing? Feeling like he was going to die, Marcus ignored them all. He was in great pain, yet he was determined to come out of it a changed man. Eventually, the messages stopped, as did all the payments from Vinny. Marcus was free. Finally, he could put his talents to good use rather than helping criminals rip off innocent people. It was at this point that he started the Malware Tech blog and began his road to redemption. But while he thought the ghosts of his past would stay dead, life had other plans. When the FBI picked up Marcus at the Las Vegas airport, they had been watching him for a while. In that interrogation room, he incorrectly assumed the cause of his arrest. At first, he thought he made the WannaCry virus himself, only to fix it and look like a hero. That was not the case. As it turned out, Randy, Marcus's associate from a past life, had seriously messed up. He was picked up by the FBI for his numerous bank fraud schemes and had no option but to surrender everything he knew. That included all his collaborations with Marcus. Some of them, as you may recall, existed in software form. Perhaps Marcus should have thought twice before he gifted him that copy of Kronos. But it was too late to worry about that now. As a 21-year-old without a lawyer in the room, Marcus began to panic pretty bad. If the FBI knew everything he had gotten into, they could easily put him behind bars for decades. In a stupid move, he told them that he had stopped working on any and all malware the moment he hit the age of 18. The FBI agents, ready for that lie, provided Marcus with evidence to the contrary. On top of every stupid thing he had done in his youth, he now had to add lying to federal agents during an active investigation to the list. The FBI gave Marcus two options. He could either fight them in court, or he could accept a plea deal where he gave up all the collaborators from his black hat past. In return, the FBI would make a recommendation to the judge presiding the case. One the judge could choose to follow or ignore. Not knowing what to do, Marcus used his one phone call to get in touch with his boss, Salim Nano. Nano, outraged that the FBI had picked up Marcus after he essentially saved the world, raised the alarm online. The entire cybersecurity community went on fire. Many respected individuals from within the community put the federal government under blast for arresting their savior. To get out of jail, Marcus would need to pay a bail of $30,000. Unfortunately, all his accounts were frozen, and there was nothing he could do. Lucky for him, 2 recently married cybersecurity professionals, Tara Wheeler and Deviant Alam, had heard about his case and were incredibly touched by it. Using the money they had put down for a down payment on their new house, they bailed him out. Once out of jail, Marcus had the chance to receive proper legal care. His lawyers advised him that the FBI had given him a bad deal and that they were better off taking a shot in court. This appealed to Marcus, as the associates from his past life were essentially neglected kids who were just screwing around. Why would he want to give them up? Besides, they were more interested in Vinny, and he didn't know a single thing about Vinny. If his collaboration with the FBI didn't go how they planned, they could easily turn the judge against him. At the trial, the judge presiding over the case, Joseph Stadtmuller, was a 77-year-old man with a history of random sentencing. Sometimes he was lenient. Other times, he was very harsh. Besides, how much did he understand of what Marcus had done? Understanding malware was one thing, but at that age, could he even turn on his computer without help? As if Marcus didn't have enough to worry about, the FBI added more charges to his case. Just for turning down their offer, he was now facing a lot more years in jail if the trial didn't go his way. Throughout the whole thing, his confidence was low. Besides, the guilt of what he had done in his black hat years weighed heavy on his soul. At last, the time came for the sentencing. With a knot in his stomach, Marcus approached the judge. To his complete surprise, the judge, Stadtmuller, spoke in favor of Marcus and all he had achieved in his post-black hat years. He made it clear that he believed that Marcus had more than made up for his past crimes. The judge gave Marcus a sentence of time served, with a 1-year period of supervised release. He would not rot in prison after all, and would finally have his life back. To Marcus, the relief he felt was overwhelming. It was an even better feeling than the day he stopped WannaCry in its tracks. Today, Marcus Hutchins is still a cybersecurity expert. He still works at Cryptos Logic too. As a leading man in the field, he regularly makes public appearances talking about his experiences with other experts. Thanks to him, the world of cybersecurity is a completely different place, for better and for worse.